Marketing is the most important function in your location-independent Alpha 2.0 business. And in this video, I'm going to show you right now how to get the most amount of clients and customers through your marketing. I am, of course, Caleb Jones. This is Sovereign CEO. I teach people just like you how to set up location-independent businesses, move to a better country, or at least set up an international plan B, and do all those things for very little money. I have said many times that marketing is the most important function in your business. And in this video, I'm going to give you my number one best technique on how to market your business to make sure you get all the clients and customers you want and make all the money you want, depending on how hard you want to work. I will give you the specific structure of how this works right now. And at the end of the video, I will give you specific examples on how I have personally done this in more than one company in my entrepreneurial history and experience. This is a concept that I call the marketing ladder, and it works like this. There are basically 5 steps. Step 1 is you pick one way to market your business. One, not 14, not 5 or 6. One, you pick one. Especially if this business is a new business or relatively new business, you pick one way in which to market. Now, exactly how to market and which method you choose to market, that's a topic for another time. I have a lot of materials on that, a lot of courses on that. I talk about this, that's in my books. I have a lot of videos on that here at this channel. But you pick one of the many techniques, either a technique that is a free technique or a technique that costs money. Depends on whether you have money to start with or not. I have started most buying businesses for 0 or close to it. You don't need a lot of money to start a business because there's lots of ways in which you can market your business without having to spend a lot of money. So that is step 1. You pick one marketing technique and you hit it hard. You work at it consistently over and over and over again, and you get good at it, or at least decent at it. Then you roll into step 2. You get to the point where your marketing technique that you're working on, that you're doing, is actually making money and reliably makes money whenever you need it to, within whatever income goals you have or whatever business size goals you have. Some of you guys want to make millions of dollars a year. Great. Some of you guys want to make the Sovereign CEO minimum of $85,000 a year. That's fine too. But regardless of what your goals are, you get to the point where you know this thing you're doing, blogging, ads, joint ventures, doesn't matter, consistently makes you money, even if it's a small amount of money. Again, depends on your goals. Step 3 is you then take that thing that you're doing that is making money now, and you automate it as much as humanly possible. You want to take yourself out of the workflow. If you keep saying to me, well, I have to personally do this because no one will do it as good as me, then I have a lot of videos on that, a lot of content on that regarding how stupid you're being because you're limiting your growth. You have to outsource these functions and remove yourself from the flow of work so you have someone else do these things so you can what? You can initiate other marketing techniques and grow your business even more. Unless this one thing you're doing makes all the money you want. And by the way, I have seen that happen. It's not typical, but I have seen that happen where a guy starts a business, he works at it for a few years, he pretty much does one thing to market the business, and he makes a decent income, not a lot of money, but he makes a decent income. He's like, you know what, I'm good. I'll just stick with this and ride this out. I don't recommend that because I don't think it's very smart long-term as a long-term strategy in your life. I did a podcast recently here at Sovereign CEO about having a long-term view of your business, not just making money this year or in 3 years or 5 years, but making money on your business 25 years plus, being a long-term entrepreneur, a long-term business owner. So that's what the marketing ladder does for you, is it protects you against future problems. But regardless, step 3 is to automate that marketing thing that you're doing so you don't have to do it yourself, or at least as minimum as possible, maybe watching a few numbers or checking a few things out once a week, and that's it. Step 4 is to pick a new, completely different marketing technique and start all over again and start the process all over again. So you hit it hard, you focus on it hard, you keep the first marketing technique, that plate spinning, just enough to keep it spinning. You focus on the second marketing technique, you hit it hard for a few weeks, few months, a year or two on the outside if you're really stupid, I guess. And here's the thing about this is the second time you do this, you will get from 0 to the money much faster because you have more experience. You know what you're doing. You're more accustomed to your business. You know your audience better. So it's not like if you take the first marketing technique, let's say, I'm just giving you random numbers. Let's say it takes you a year and a half to figure that out, okay? It probably won't take that long. Let's say it does. Does that mean the second marketing technique will also take you a year and a half? No, probably means the second one you'll get done in 3, 4, 5, 6 months because you already done it once. See how this works? So you spin that up, You get that to the point where it's making regular money in addition to your first marketing technique. Now you have 2 marketing streams that are making money. And then what do? You automate that. You remove yourself from the flow of work on that. And then you start the 3rd one, 4th one, 5th one, and so on. And that is the final step here. Step 5 is you rinse and repeat till you get 5 to 7, ideally, 5 to 7 completely different marketing mechanisms in your business that support your business. As I said earlier, I would never want to own a business that only had one way to market something. That I would not be able to sleep at night. I don't know about you, but I think that's very, very dangerous, especially in the collapsing Western world in which we find ourselves in, especially when we live in a world of hyper-technological change. You just can't rely on one marketing method. I know a lot of guys, some of you in my audience, who several years ago were killing it on Facebook, right? You're making massive amounts of money on Facebook ads, and then Facebook changed the rules, and your income went from $90,000 a month to pretty much $0 a month. And that was your only way of making money, so you got screwed. If you watch YouTube, a lot of YouTube personalities, you know several years ago, YouTube did something called the adpocalypse, where all these political YouTubers who only had one source of marketing, YouTube, and one source of income, YouTube, were making plenty of money, and then YouTube pressed a button and changed the algorithm, and these people were fucked. These people went out of business, some of these people lost their homes. They couldn't make a living because they relied on one thing. I've talked about in my other content for many years now, the most dangerous number in any business is the number 1. By the way, it's also true in your woman life, but that's a topic for another time. The number 1, having one client, having one customer, having one business long-term, having one way to market that business, having one income stream in your business. These are extremely dangerous numbers. I have multiple companies and multiple income streams in every company. There's a reason I do that, because I want to be protected. I don't have to worry about future problems and future changes in the world that disrupt my income. So that's why, ideally, over time, you want to get to the point where you have 5 to 7 different marketing methodologies in your business, all of which are spinning off money, and all of which don't take you a lot of personal time. Some personal time is okay, but not a lot. Again, the goal here for the Alpha 2.0 business structure is to make a high income and only work 30 hours a week or less once the business is up and running, so you have freedom, because that's what we're talking about here at Sovereign CEO is freedom. It's the number 1 thing we talk about here. You're not going to be free if you're working 60 hours a week doing all of your own marketing. That's dumb. I don't care if you make $10 million a year, you're still not free. And as I've said before, and I'll say it again, I personally know guys, a few of them, guys who are, pretty close to me in my life, who make 7-figure incomes and they have no freedom whatsoever. They have to work 50, 60, 70 hours a week. In many cases, they're monogamously married, and so they have no freedom. Make a lot of money, but they have no freedom. I would rather you have the money and the freedom. That's what I've got. It's kind of nice. Now, if you need help developing these marketing techniques, you can go to joinsmic.com. That is my monthly training and mentorship program where we do conference calls, several of them every month. Plus, you get over 100 audio trainings. It's very inexpensive. I suggest you check that out if you want help building your business. This system, we have 5 to 7 sources of income in terms of marketing, might take you several years, and that's okay. There's no rush, because it's not like you need to get 5 to 7 and then you'll make money. You'll be making money as soon as you make the first one work. It's kind of neat. Now, as I promised, I will give you several real-life examples about how I did this in multiple companies. So I'll give you an old example. My first business, as some of you already know, I was a computer consultant. It wasn't a location-independent Alpha 2.0 business, but I was a self-employed computer consultant. I made a 6-figure income all the way back in my 20s as a guy who never went to college in 1990s dollars. Not bad. And here's what I did. Here was the marketing ladder system that I used just as an example. Now, before I do this, before I give you these examples, I always have to say this because I know you guys. What I'm about to give you are examples. Please do not copy literally what I'm going to say, because it probably will not match your business exactly. And too many of you, when I give examples of things that I've done, take them cookie cutter and copy them exactly, and then surprise, surprise, they don't work for you because you're not me and your business isn't mine. So please don't copy these exactly. Just consider these as templates or examples to draw information from and ideas from. Very important. Okay. So when I first started my first full-time business, when I was 24 years old, back in 1996, I was a self-employed, on-site networking IT consultant, charging by the hour, which you shouldn't do if you're a consultant, topic for the time. The first thing I did was cold calls. And I've talked about this before. I actually made a list of like 120 people, everyone I knew, everyone I could think of, and I got on the phone, and I had my little stupid office, and I was nervous, and I nervously dialed the phone and said, "Hi, do you have computers in your business that you need help with? Like, do you need fixed?" Or I was super nervous, but I did it because I wanted money. And that's how this works. So for a while I did cold calls, and it was hard, but it worked. I got clients. Cold calls actually works. It's not fun to do, but it works. And that was my first rung on the marketing ladder, was cold calls. Then I morphed quickly into referrals, word of mouth. And these were not just referrals I sat on my ass and waited for. These were things I encouraged from my clients. When I got something done for one of my clients, they said, "Wow, that's so great. Thank God you fixed that." Or "That's so, you set that up so fast. This is great." I said, "Hey, I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you liked my work. Do you know anyone else like in your industry who maybe owns a business or works for a business where maybe they need their computers fixed?" Hint, hint, wink, wink. And I got business off that. I kept doing the cold calls too. I didn't stop doing the cold calls. Okay, that's the important point. The marketing ladder doesn't mean you do one thing and then stop, another thing and then stop, another thing and then stop. You keep doing all of them, as much as is feasibly possible, of course. The next thing I started doing once I was in business and had a few clients was, and I've talked about this before in my past content, was direct mail. Actual snail mail letters to businesses. Direct mail still works today. It works better for B2B than B2C. I started sending out letters. I bought various little courses on how to make money with direct mail, selling services, and I copied what they showed me and it worked. And I got clients and it was great. I started doing regular mailings all the time to get new clients for my consulting business, and it worked. In addition to referrals, in addition to cold calls. Later, as I got more comfortable, the fourth thing I did in my marketing ladder was joint ventures. I started working with other consultants who were in the same industry as me, but not competing with me. And I started working on their clients. And sometimes I gave them a commission or a kickback. Sometimes I didn't. Sometimes they just gave me the business. And sometimes I gave them business. I made a lot of money doing this in my 20s. This was a very, very profitable thing for me. And this was the fourth thing I was doing, making money. Are you starting to see now why I got from zero to a six-figure income in my 20s in 1990s dollars, when six figures was a lot more money back then than it was now, pre all this inflation bullshit? You see why? Because I was doing all these marketing things all at the same time. The fifth thing I did was radio ads. I didn't do a lot of this, but I did some there because they were very expensive. But I was on the radio. I noticed that no other IT consultants were on the radio in my city, so I bought radio ads. They were a lot of money, but guess what? I made plenty of money as terms of profit on getting some big clients from that. So that's what I did in my first business. I did it a little clumsily because I wasn't very experienced back then, but it worked. I made a six-figure income as a dumb kid in his 20s. Not bad. I'll now give you an example of how I did this in my online business. But before I do that, if this content helps you at all, you should do a few things. You should subscribe to this channel. You should click the notification bell. You should put a like on this video and leave a comment on this video. Doesn't matter what you say. The more interactivity I get on this content, the more of this content I will provide for you for free. So you just win. Now, as some of you know, this Sovereign CEO company is an outgrowth of another company called Alpha Male 2.0, which itself was an outgrowth of another company called Black Dragon. I started many, many, many years ago, 13, 14 years ago, which was a company that sold dating materials to men, how to do first dates, second dates, online dating, and things like that. I still talk about those topics over at the Alpha Male 2.0 content. But if you want to know how I started that business is now a multi six-figure company for me, and I started that business for $29. And I did the same exact thing, the same exact technique I'm explaining to you here. I did a marketing ladder. The first thing I did, very first thing I did way back in 2008, 2009 technically is when I started the business, was I posted on forums. And I would post on forums, I would give advice. I wouldn't advertise, say, buy my book. I would actually give advice and help guys out and answer questions. There was a signature link that they could click on, and I developed notoriety in that world by being very prolific on forums. Today, you would use something like Telegram or Discord or things like that. Forums are kind of going away, although they're still around a little bit depending on the industry and things like that. But that's just, again, it's an example. Don't copy me, but that's an example of what I did. And it worked. I started making, not great money, but I made real money that I could spend just by posting on forums regularly on a regular basis. The second thing I started doing relatively quickly was blogging. And as many of you know, I've been a blogger now for 13, 14 years. I started a blog, and within a year or two, that blog was making a six-figure income. Just from the blog, with no money spent, just blogging on a regular basis, 2 to 3 articles a week, every week, without taking a break, make sure they were high quality articles, make sure I responded to people in the comments, make sure I was prolific with my content. I did very, very well with that, blogging. And this is another example of you don't have to spend a lot of money to get started in business. How much does it cost to start a blog? $0. You go to WordPress.com right now and set one up for $0. Kind of nice. The next thing I branched out to was social media, and back then it was primarily Twitter, although I did a little Facebook stuff too, and I started making money on Twitter. I started getting coaching clients on Twitter and people who bought my ebooks on Twitter, some on Facebook as well. So I started a whole social media campaign way back when, and that worked too. So that was the third thing I was doing. The next thing I started doing, and I kind of dabbled in it, I should have done it more, was joint ventures. I learned from my consulting experience how easy it was to make a lot of money as a joint venture. So I started reaching out to other guys in the pickup artist world, the dating coach world, who taught things like things that I didn't teach and things that they were teaching that I wasn't teaching. So I was teaching mostly online dating and non-monogamous relationships. Most of these guys, at least back then, were teaching night game and maybe a little bit of dating. They were not teaching online dating. If they did, they just kind of dabbled in it. And so I went to some of these guys, some big name guys in the industry back then, and I said, hey, I have a great book on online dating. It's proven to work. A lot of guys like it. Why don't you sell that to your audience and pay me 40%, 50%? And if you want, I'll take your book and I'll sell it to my audience and I'll, pay you a percentage. Fine. Made some good money doing that several times. Joint ventures is fantastic. That's the fourth thing I was doing. But that's like, well, you get the point now. I'm doing many, many things, not just one. The next thing I started doing, and I'm doing this to this day, is pay-per-click ads. Those cost a little more money, but I started making money on those. And today I make a lot of money doing that. I make a lot of money doing pay-per-click ads these days. Pay-per-click is difficult. It's a pain in the ass. Some platforms don't allow certain topics, so it's not fun to do, but it does work. So that's another rung on my marketing ladder, or at least it was. And it is today, although the business has changed. The last thing I started working on, and I didn't do this very well, but I did work on this and made money on it, was affiliate programs where people can sell your stuff for you online. I added that as a final rung to that business. Do you get now why many guys who started a dating blog back in 2009, of which there were many, are now long gone and never made any money, and I made a lot of money? You see why? Because I focused on marketing, and I focused on many techniques in marketing, one at a time, using this marketing ladder technique. Again, you don't do all these things at once. You're not Elon Musk. You're not Superman. I'm sorry you're not, neither am I. One at a time, but you need to do them. And to repeat, maybe, not maybe, some of you don't want to make as much money as I'm making. You don't want to work that hard. That's fine. Instead of 5 to 7, maybe get 3 or 4 up and running. Fine. But not 1 and not 0. This is a video that you might need to go back and rewind and watch again, because I covered a lot of content in this video, and it's an important topic that most of you aren't doing, especially most entrepreneurs don't do this. That's why most entrepreneurs go out of business. But think about this. In the meantime, if you want to watch this video here on how I'm currently handling my morning routine, which helps me optimize for the day to make sure I can engage in these marketing techniques on a daily basis, I will see you in the next video. Have fun. Bye.